Well, hi everybody. As we get ever closer to a return to racing, thought it would be time to get an update on where things are at Harness Racing New Zealand. And Racing and Marketing Manager Darrin Williams joins us now. Darrin, welcome, and just tell us that there must be a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, g'day Dave. Certainly been a lot going on since we raced on the 23rd of March, that last race meeting at Wingatui, the dual code meeting. A lot been happening since then, obviously, as we stepped up to level 4 and looked to put all the various protocols in place with those government departments and government agencies that we needed to do, effectively locking us down from racing and training and trialling and the like, and moving to where we are today, which is getting a hell of a lot closer back to normality and the ability to race again.
And one of those things about normality is workouts and trials. I mean, tell us about that. Is progress being made on when they're going to be held?
Yeah, absolutely. As trainers and the participants will have seen, we've put out the return to training protocol, the level 3 return to training order and direction. It was put out a couple of weeks ago now, with a full week of training last week. So that's one piece, and now the next piece, which has been with those agencies last week and all signed off from HRNZ's point of view and just needs approval, is that return to racing, which includes workouts, trials and race meetings. So it's a lot of the protocols very similar, and it's a wee bit similar to what we had in level 2 when we did race those few race meetings with the public excluded. We're thinking that public are excluded for quite a wee way yet under level 2, but what we want is the ability to resume workouts, trials and race meetings under level 3. But hopeful we're in level 2 by the time that we actually do race on the 29th of May, but obviously trialling and workouts prior to that is important. So that level 3 document, hopefully we get approval of that today from those departments and we'll circulate that amongst the participants. It does require that only essential people are at all of those meetings, that is workouts and trials as well as race meetings. So just the trainers and their staff that are required to be there. So coming down to the bare minimum, if you like. It is public excluded. You will have to be a licence holder to be at the race meeting and in the stable area. So you'll have to hold a licence of some description, whether it's a stable hands licence or a trainer or a driver. And the necessary protocols will be in place, physical distancing. You'll complete a questionnaire, which is very similar to the one that the trainers are using on a daily basis with their staff now at the screening point when you come into the race meeting. So we're encouraging people to fill those in prior to coming to the race meeting, so there's not that hold up when they're trying to take horses into the stable block. And obviously once they've raced their horses to leave the property as quickly as they can. All of the protocols are in there. A couple of things that I've just seen on social media. One question that I think Kim Butt asked Dave was just around silks and colours. And that's something that's included in that protocol, where a driver will only wear one set of silks for that trainer for the night or the day. They won't share those silks with anyone else. If the trainer's got 2 horses in, he's required to bring a couple of sets of colours. If for any reason there's not enough sets to cover those sorts of situations, then the driver will be able to wear a set that he's worn previously on the same day. So that those colours wouldn't be shared. So that's one thing that's included in there as well.
In terms of some of the housekeeping matters, if you like, Darrin, things like programming and the handicapping and the stakes, any updates on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So considerable amount of work done from way back in March with the handicapping working group, which includes a number of trainers, and was extended to include a few more in those discussions very early in the piece from right around the country. Jay Abernethy, Ken Barron, Mark Purden, Jeff Knight and the like, with the racing secretaries, the racing managers from around the country and the rest of that handicapping group to look at what it would look like racing at just 4 venues over this lockdown period, if you like, and what those programs might look like. So more information is going to come out towards the end of the week on that. The handicapping matrix, the guys were working on all of that as well, but they obviously needed confirmation of what that stake money level looked like to see what they might need to do there. So there will be some slight changes there, I believe. That'll be signed off by our board later this week. So that information will come out along with a draft set of trials and workouts dates, which is obviously pending the ability for us to run those. And we're thinking that not necessarily will it be that those trials and workouts will be just at those 4 venues. Obviously, geographically across the country, people are located in other areas, and if they're not required to move for trials and workouts, that makes sense, as long as we can run them in a safe manner and they go through the same protocols of locking the venue down on the day. So all of this, Dave, of course, is about us doing the right thing. One, protecting our participants, but more so protecting our ability to keep racing going forward. We need to make sure that we are a workplace, just like any other workplace, and that's what we are with public excluded. We are just a group of people going about their daily business and their work to get everything rolling, and that once we start racing, then life becomes a wee bit normal again.
You mentioned the public excluded. What about the media? Would you expect the media to sort of cover race meetings once they resume at the end of the month?
Yeah, the protocols, Dave, have an approval process in there that the club and HRNZ will work on. HRNZ will approve those people that go onto the course. So again, it's bare minimum. I know my own staff, which includes yourself, we haven't got those people at race meetings at the moment. There's a lot of activity, even inside that first week, from social media and some really good stuff by some of the participants, with some interviews and things. So as long as there is a reason that that person is on course, so they're holding a stable hands license, they're entitled to be in the stable area, then obviously all that footage is fantastic stuff and something that we would encourage. We're being very careful in that first week, Addington in particular, being very careful to make sure that we weren't catching ourselves out and we were doing exactly what was required as things were escalating up. Perhaps looks a wee bit different on the way down, where we can have that activity. But we also want to encourage punting, obviously, punting information and the like, and our correspondents will be providing previews for those. And I know we've, as a group, a marketing group, have already looked at some of the activity that we'll be able to undertake prior to race meetings with previews and the like. And certainly this ability for video conferencing gives us a whole range of things there where we could, for example, you could interview Nathan Williamson before a race meeting and go through his drives and the like, or Mark Purdon or anyone. And we can create a preview or with the commentator, and that information will be able to be viewed either on social mediums or on our HRNZ website platform.
Just lastly, Darren, the size stakes, what's the update with that in terms of when will the races be run, the races that obviously haven't been run to date?
Yeah, so really tricky stuff there, because those races are very, very important, and a lot of Group 1 feature racing, of course. The difficulty is trying to make sure that that works, and we appreciate that the participants are wanting that information as quickly as we can. Size Stakes have been working with HRNZ on what all of that looks like, because obviously there's a whole funding envelope that sits inside that from a group race funding point of view. Size Stakes races are made up with the funds from the participants that have paid into those series, the sponsors' contribution to those races, which the sponsors have been very loyal to the Size Stakes board, and we thank them for that. Then some club contribution, and obviously significant amount of contribution from HRNZ from the group race subsidy pool. The Size Stakes have a working group that will meet again this week. There's already been a lot of work done on what those races that weren't run would look like early in the new season. And there's a draft schedule that they're working on that hopefully we'll have out towards the end of the week. It'll confirm the contribution that has been made by the participants to those races, and obviously that will leave a hole in funding, which in fairness to HRNZ, they still don't know that funding for next season from RETA, because RETA don't know that either based on the level of turnover and what's going to be available. So that will become clearer as time progresses, but hopefully we've got those dates, or what potentially that structure of dates looks like for the new season. Obviously those younger horses that have been spelling will be back a wee bit earlier than perhaps they would have been. But that schedule of those races obviously needs to fit in with the schedule for the group and feature races that would have been run next season anyway. So classic example of that would be the 2-year-old Size Stakes, which would have been run in May at Addington. Those horses are now 3, and they have their 3-year-old Size Stakes series leading up to the final on Cup Day. So that race meeting, or that series of races, has to fit with the schedule that will already be in place for next year. So not simple, but confirming those dates will be a start in the right direction. So we're hopeful that we can get some information out for participants later in the week on that.
Certainly nothing's been simple of late, Darrin, but appreciate your time very much and look forward to getting some more updates as we count down to the start of racing at the end of the month. So thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Dave.